Good morning, everyone. We are here from One Woman Shop, which, if you're not familiar with, it is a resource hub and membership community for female solo business owners. I'm Sarah, and on my other side here is my co-head honcho, Cristina. And this is our weekly show, The Hot Seat. So today we are talking about collaboration. Do you want to go a little bit more into that, Cristina?
Well, technically it's collaboration station. Or hashtag collaboration station, I feel like would be even more effective. But so today, we were talking about the ways that we have collaborated through One Woman Shop, the ways that we've seen members of our community effectively collaborate. Basically, there's a ton of benefits, but today specifically, we're talking about the kind of one-off collaborations, not necessarily the long-term partnerships. Like we have, or that we've actually seen develop within our community, which is so exciting. But today we're talking about those kind of just one-off. So do you want to give a few examples of ways that we've collaborated with people in our community?
Yeah, so on an ongoing basis, we have opportunities like guest posting to have people contribute posts in their realm of expertise. We kind of guide things by having an editorial calendar and topics. But we also let people carry the Instagram baton, which is super exciting. And I think a lot of people really enjoy doing that. So we give them access to our Instagram account for a day at a time to show us a day in their life. We have an ongoing affiliate program so that people can earn commission off of promoting our products. We are affiliates for other people's products, of course. Yeah. Roundup posts are an awesome way that we kind of get a lot of new people on our radar and tap into other people's knowledge. What am I missing here?
We also have done some Roundup ebooks. So we did the Road to Solopreneur Success. So we hosted a blog tour, and then we took all those stories and we put them into an ebook. So all this will be in the show notes, so you guys can go and check out all these things. It's not all shameless promotion, though, because we are going to share some of the best practices. So, and another thing we actually have been starting to dabble with, but haven't kind of fully immersed ourselves in, is webinars, so joint webinars. I think that you covered everything else though. Oh, well, actually the big one, which is the Solopreneur Success Bundle.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a product that we ran last year. We'll be running again this year, which is a roundup. Last year we had 19 products valued over $1,000, and we sold it for $99. But the catch was it was only available for 5 days. So that was a really exciting way to collaborate with both contributors and also affiliates.
Yeah, and we'll be using the bundle as a lot of examples when we talk through kind of some of our lessons that we've learned through collaborations, as well as what we've adopted as best practices. So you'll hear bundle a lot.
Bundle, blab bingo bundle. That's the word of the day.
I like it.
So do you want to dive into some of the benefits that we've seen?
Yeah. So we actually kind of talked about a lot of this when we talked about 100 Best Sites last week. A lot of the benefits, at least, and why we do 100 Best Sites. So as many people that know One Woman Shop know, our tagline is going it alone shouldn't feel lonely. And collaborations are a great way to bring other people into your business without establishing legal partnerships and any sort of like official entities. So that is one huge benefit. Is it's a really great way to work with a lot of other people and get in front of their audiences. And that's kind of what we really talked about with 100 Best Sites is we get a lot of new people to our site that wouldn't find us otherwise, and we get in front of a lot of other people's audiences. So that's a huge part of collaborating.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the example of the baton is that we get to basically showcase the day in the life of somebody in our community. We get all this awesome Instagram content. And a lot of times some background noise here. A lot of times they'll use, hashtags that we wouldn't necessarily think to use, or they'll mention on their Instagram account that they are carrying the One Woman Shop baton. And so we get in front of their audience, like you said, but then they also get in front of our audience. And so they get to shop community.
Yeah, and I think
community.
Oh, you're freezing up a little bit, Cristina. Okay, you're there. I just didn't know if I was cutting you off here. And I think that's a really important thing to mention is that in most of our collaborations, I'd say 99% of them, we try to go into it with a win-win attitude. So the idea behind collaborating is trying to figure out how it can benefit both the people that we're collaborating with as well as us, because we do want both sides to be able to get something out of it.
Absolutely. And then one point that I know you made on our little notes that we have is basically the idea that one benefit of collaborating is bringing in expertise that we don't necessarily have. So actually one example, we haven't mentioned this yet, is that we did a joint e-course with Carrie Smith of Careful Sense. And so that was a really cool example. We wanted to be able to provide financial resources to our community, but we didn't necessarily feel like we were the right people to write all the content. And so working with Carrie was the perfect win-win. We should have Bob Bingo for win-win today.
No, and that's a really important point, because especially when we're running a business where we want to be a pretty robust, I guess, resource for solo business owners who are starting and growing their business. But we clearly don't know everything, and we don't need to know everything. We don't want to know everything. So it's really important that we can sync up with other people that are experts in their niches. And that's, again, the bundle is a great example of that, getting those resources from people like Amber McHugh, who specializes in systems, and just like, I mean, we had 19 contributors, so I can but going for those resources where we don't necessarily have them because we're not the experts.
Yeah, exactly. But I did want to say, before we dive further into best practices, we do have the caveat that it is not always, I'm back on video. It's not always the best decision. And so while we say it a lot, and we actually do adhere to it, the idea of collaboration over competition, there are certain times for us or for your business where it's not going to make sense to collaborate. Maybe somebody comes to you and wants to collaborate, but it's just way too similar. And there can be too much overlap with a potential collaborator. Or it could be it's going to distract from your brand, or it's going to take away from a big project that you're working on. And keeping in mind, just like we discussed with partnerships, that collaborating does take time and energy. And so especially when you're basically having to set expectations, we're going to go into some of that stuff, but things do take time and energy. So knowing that it's not just kind of a simple, let's collaborate and we're done.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much hit on every caveat there. Where it's definitely, I just actually talked to somebody yesterday about how she had this really great opportunity for collaboration, but she just was so unsure if it fit her brand. And it could be the best opportunity ever, where you're like, I'm going to get in front of new people, I might make money, whatever it might be. But if it doesn't fit your brand and it doesn't feel right, it is really important to go into it with a filter of, is this truly right for me? Knowing that it will also take time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one thing that we've been talking to some of our coaching clients about is basically putting a system, we've done this ourselves, putting a system around opportunities that are coming your way. So we do this with guest posting. So basically saying, okay, is this a 4, like we're good to go, it's not going to take much time and energy with editing, or is it, you know what, this is going to take a lot of time and energy, so it's not necessarily the thing we need to spend time on right now. And so we found that kind of putting that numbered system around it helps kind of remove the emotion and helps you kind of process opportunities more effectively.
Yeah, and it goes down what your mission is and what your main goals are, and how you can rate them effectively. This is a 5 if it supports my mission by hitting on this point, and this point, but it's only a 3 if this, and I'll only take it on if I happen to have the time right now. So keeping in mind what your goals are and how it might support them is really important before you just say yes.
Yeah, but also keeping in mind that it is a lot of experimentation, and that some of the things that we've done that maybe we weren't super gung-ho about have panned out 10 times better than the things that we thought were going to be excellent. So that's
a caveat to the caveat.
Caveat to the caveat. I mean, there's nothing specific to take away from that other than be open, but also say no
Yes.
Good luck finding it out. Have fun.
And with that, we are done.
Yeah. One woman shop out. No, so best practices. I feel like it's a really good segue because these are some things that we've definitely learned over time. Do you want to dive into any of those?
Yeah, you touched on this before, but setting really clear expectations from the start. So it could be if somebody's asking you to participate in a collaboration, or if you are reaching out to somebody else, you are either the one that wants to be super clear in the terms and the expectations, and you also want to make sure if you are asked that you are fully understanding what's being asked. So don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. And before you ever, so this was a great example with the Solopreneur Success Bundle. We had a pretty good idea of what we were asking of our contributors and of our affiliates, but until we actually started doing outreach, we didn't actually anticipate all of the questions that we'd get. This year, when we go into it, we will address all of those questions from the start so that we're all starting off on the same page.
Yeah, and I actually have a story that it's kind of like it felt like a failure to me very back in the beginning of One Woman Shop. But I'll share it in the interest of learning. Basically, I had reached out to somebody about, when I first started One Woman Shop, I basically got a bunch of, what did I call them? Ambassadors. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I lost your video. So I got a bunch of ambassadors on board. So this is before One Woman Shop even launched. We were basically building up the waiting list. And then having ambassadors basically promote One Woman Shop within their communities. So I reached out to a bunch of people that I thought had really cool and interesting communities. So one girl that I reached out to, she basically decided to be an ambassador and was really excited about it. But then she ended up feeling kind of, I guess, I don't know if deceived, I think deceived is too strong a word, but basically she ended up feeling like I had misled her. And I was, looking back, I was like, everything I said was true, but the caveat being, if she had asked me questions, I would have been able to tell her better, yeah, this is where we're going with the community. But it's stuff that I hadn't thought to tell her and she hadn't thought to ask. And so that's kind of where the miscommunication and the mixed up expectations resulted from. So that's a really good, I really like that you mentioned you can be the one to ask the questions too.
Yeah, no, and I think, most miscommunication comes from being on, or most, I don't know how to say that, but so much of the miscommunication comes from people going into the situation with different expectations. So rising strong.
Rising strong. Got that from Rising Strong, but it's so true.
Thank you, Brene Brown. So definitely setting the stage with clear expectations. Do you want to go into another best practice?
I'd love to. Thank you. So a huge thing that we had that has made it easier on our end and has made it, I think, easier for anyone who's collaborating with us is having process documents. So I think we've mentioned this in every blog recently. Again, we'll link it in the show notes. But what we do is we create always a Google Doc because we can update it live and anyone who gets it gets to see the updated version. And we revamp it as we go. So one example is with the One Woman Shop instant stuff. And so we have all these different expectations. So, we expect you to post between 6 and 10 times throughout the day. We expect you not to post controversial material. We expect you to do an intro post where you use the hashtag One Woman Shop baton. So just those little things have really helped make the process a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it could go the same for, our contributor guidelines. We try to be really specific in what we're asking for so that we eliminate some of the back and forth when we're pitched. So having those process docs is key. And it really helps us internally to manage collaborations. So that's probably why we talk about process docs so much. So this next best practice kind of relates. And there's a post coming soon on this on One Woman Shop, but it is canned responses. So if you're a Gmail user, I think it's a lab still, but if you go into your settings and then labs, you can turn on canned responses. And And this just basically gives you the ability to take a response that you are typing up over and over and over again and save it so that the next time you get that ask, you can simply load that canned response up and send it off. So in the example of the One Woman Shop blog and taking guest posts, I have 3 different canned responses. If I get an initial pitch where I need more information, I have an email that goes out. If I get a pitch that actually has an outline in it, I have an email that goes out. And then once a post is published by a guest contributor, I have a canned response. But I'm still, every time I load that canned response, I'm definitely still going in and updating some of the information in it to make sure that I'm tailoring it to the person or a question that was asked or the specific need that I have. So it gives you that baseline to work off, and it saves so much time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, canned responses are incredible. And actually, I was just writing up the post about canned responses, and I was like, I searched on One Woman Shop, and we mentioned canned responses once, although we do mention it a lot in the Solopreneur Sanity Handbook. But I was like, how have we never talked about this? And it's one of those things that to us, it's just kind of, it's become second nature. But for a lot of people, we were actually just talking to one of our coaching clients, and it was brand new to her. And so it's been such a time saver, such an energy saver.
Yeah, and actually along that same lines, something we talk about in the handbook, and there are posts on the site about this, is Boomerang, because follow-ups are really important when you're asking people for stuff. And when you are participating in a collaboration, to make sure that the communication keeps flowing. We use Boomerang to schedule follow-ups, to ping us when we haven't heard back on something, to schedule messages to go later, but it makes follow-ups so much easier. So I'd say canned responses and Boomerang are 2 super important tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing that we've been talking about a lot lately is the benefits of having a swipe file. And so for anyone who's not familiar, a swipe file is basically where you go ahead and you pre-draft social media messages, you get graphics created, and you send that to anyone you're collaborating with so that they can easily grab those things, and it makes sharing on their end super easy. So we have a few examples of pretty robust swipe files. So definitely the Solopreneur Success Bundle, and definitely 100 Best Sites, where we said, here's everything from the Facebook post that you can share. Here's the pin that you can share. Here's the badge with the HTML code that you can embed on your site. And here's, 5 different versions of tweets so you can mix it up. Any other best practices from Swype Files?
Yeah, just go into it with the goal of making it super easy for the people that you're asking to promote your stuff. And as somebody that might participate in collaborations, you'll realize if you're provided a swipe file, how much easier it makes it for you, because you can the whole idea is you can go in and swipe stuff from it. When we did the Solopreneur Success Bundle, we even had boilerplate email copy that could go out the day the bundle launched, midway through the week, and the final day it was available, because it had such a strict time frame. So thinking about how you want people to be communicating about whatever this collaboration or promotion is, and then facilitating that for them. And even if they don't we knew people would still write their own stuff, and we wanted that to happen. But the idea was to kind of jog their creativity and give them some place to start. And I know we appreciate that when people give that kind of stuff to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you basically touched on it, that you can basically, it's your way of controlling the message. And again, they can always, if you provide a click to tweet, for example, someone can always go in and edit that. And like you said, that's beneficial because it captures their voice and fits with their branding. But they also then kind of have those wheels turning about the basic things that you want them to touch on. So it's a way for you to kind of have a little bit more control.
Yeah.
For control freaks out there, not like we know anything about that.
No, the thing is, it's interesting because collaborations do really make you have to let go of some control. But the benefits of having collaborators outweigh that. But there's still these things that you can put in place. That's why we have these best practices, because it gives you a little bit more structure around collaboration, so you can be a little bit more confident in what's actually going to take place. But knowing that, some people won't follow up on things, and some people won't promote, and there's always the that's where you kind of have the lessons learned.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good thing to touch on, which we don't actually have notes on this, so we're just winging it. But basically, disaster prevention, ways that we kind of proactively protect ourselves from getting screwed is a bit of a strong word, but from getting kind of thrown off by a collaborator who doesn't necessarily fulfill their end of the agreement. I have a few thoughts, but do you have anything there?
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to the editorial calendar, it's that one's a little bit easier to build buffers in. So if people aren't hitting deadlines, we usually have a pretty decent pool of content to pull from to put on in place of something if we don't receive it on time. But along the same lines, building in quite a bit of a buffer, knowing that if I tell somebody the 16th of May for a draft, I might not get it till the 23rd. So I'm already saying, well, I'm not going to plan on posting that until the beginning of June. So building in buffers and kind of knowing that those things might come up.
Yeah, absolutely. So building in buffers is actually, we have the Solopreneur Sanity Handbook, which is organized by scenarios and solutions, and building in buffers is one of those solutions. So good touch on that. And I was going to say also, just like you said with the editorial calendar, we have that on Instagram as well, where if somebody, it's happened so incredibly rarely, and when it has happened, it's been totally legitimate reasons where someone hasn't been able to carry the baton the day that they signed up for. And so we, can always just have backup content, I think. Or worst comes to absolute worst, it's okay to not post on Instagram for a day.
Yes.
So keeping in mind that it's all perspective. And so if you're feeling like very thrown off by a collaborator, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. And really, one of the things we learned with the Solopreneur Success Bundle is not putting all your eggs in one basket. So we had, I think something like 70 affiliates. Whereas if we were really relying on 5 to 10 affiliates and 3 of them didn't show up for those 5 days, we might have been in trouble. But we had 70 affiliates, and if 10% of them didn't even participate, we still had 63 affiliates promoting the product. So really not putting all your eggs in one basket, which again is kind of this version of building yourself a buffer. So I feel like I'm saying the same thing.
I like it in different words though. And I was just gonna who's gonna be the most amazing.
Oh, you cut out for that. You came back in for who's going to be the most amazing. So we could make up what you're talking about there.
No, I was just saying, sometimes you don't know who's going to be the most amazing affiliate. You don't know whose blog is going to bring you the most traffic when you guest post. And so again, back to that idea of experimenting. And a lot of times it really comes down to the strength of someone's community and how engaged their community is rather than the size. And so sometimes, friends, size doesn't matter. Basically, we've had examples like this where we've been featured on different sites that are huge, and we don't necessarily get any traffic versus some sites that are way smaller, and it brings us amazing traffic because it's super targeted.
Right.
So just keeping in mind, again, like back to the affiliates, you don't necessarily know who's going to bring you a bunch of sales. So experimenting. And once you get a good collaboration going, keeping them on your side.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I just want to kind of back up and remind people that we're not talking about official partnerships where we would say you want to have a contract in place. We're talking about the little bit more lax stuff, the impromptu things that come up, or the casual collaborations. So if it is something where money is being exchanged, or it is ongoing for a certain amount of time, or there are things at stake, those are the kinds of things where you probably want to have a contract in place. But we're talking about kind of the more casual versions.
Yeah, the casual ones that we talked about in building our online community. So we have a whole course about those guys.
Yeah, no, I think.
And then.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say just one last note that, it's also a really fun way to kind of reward people that you're collaborating with. So it's not always necessary, but sometimes we'll, throw in a little gift card to Starbucks or, a handwritten note, just the fun things, thank you emails for people who carry the baton, just basically a way to say thank you.
Yeah, actually, I can't believe we didn't mention that as a best practice, that gratitude is huge. After the bundle, we gave all of our contributors a Starbucks gift card, and we just couldn't thank people enough for stepping up during that time. But even just a little token of appreciation, a simple email is a day maker when it comes to really acknowledging that people took time to actually collaborate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, you, and may the collaboration be with you.
Yes. Collaboration station. Hashtag.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.